Hey guys, it's Tammy. Um, I started this channel out a couple years ago, mostly just to do some Dollar Tree hauls and day in the life, different things like that. Um, Even did a few mukbangs. Never really took it serious, and my grandson told me a while back that he wanted to start a YouTube channel. Mind you, he was 10 years old at the time. He's now 11 and a half. Soon he'll be 12. It's just unbelievable how fast time flies. But anyway, I decided that one of the things that I would like to leave him in this world when it's my time to go is a YouTube channel. And kind of like a living diary or journal of some sort. Just some of the stories that I'd like him to know. Things that I think he needs to know. And some things he may not want to know, but he's going to know them anyway. So I thought this would be a good opportunity as I think of different things that went on in my life. Some days I wonder, wow, how did I make it through that? And then other days I'm like, I was so blessed to be able to do some of the things that I've done. Like I said, if you've seen the post previous to this one, I was born in 1969. My parents divorced when I was 12. And so my mom pretty much raised me on her own. My dad decided that he was kind of going to go do his thing. And my mom, being the woman that she was, decided that she was going to be mom and she was going to, take care of me and do everything there was possible to help me and to make sure that I had everything that I needed growing up. Sorry about this background. It's literally just pointed at my TV right now. But I was sitting here last night and thinking about some of the things I've been through in life, and you know how sometimes you can hear a song or smell a smell or see a person or just anything that will kind of take you right back to that moment. And that happens to me a lot. I don't know about you guys, but it does. It happens a lot. And a funny story popped into my head because I was listening to some music in my room as I was doing some things, different little things. And a Kid Rock song came on. And I've seen Kid Rock several times in my life. And then I have a 35-year-old son. And of course, he's a Kid Rock fan. And back in the day, in the 90s especially, Kid Rock was known for having some wild concerts. And, just, I don't know if you've been to one back then. There would be women literally in cages dancing pretty much naked. He would come out in a big white fur coat, and it was a good show. It was wide open for 3 hours nonstop, and it was a lot of fun. But at this particular concert, my son was young. This was early 90s. I had left him with my mom. The guy that I was dating at the time was a big Kid Rock fan also. So For Christmas that year, I had bought him Kid Rock tickets, just basic tickets close to the stage, as I could get anyway. Sorry about that. And, we had a really good time. It was a good concert, but before the concert started, all the lights were up. Everything was good. We were walking around, going to buy a t-shirt, going to check out the souvenirs, going to get something to drink. Different things, just walking around, people watching, stuff like that. It was crowded, smoky. People were smoking and drinking and just partying. It was a different atmosphere, different time. We're walking along and talking, laughing, having fun. The usual things you do at a concert. And I remember turning around because the guy I was dating was following along behind me. And I was making sure that he was keeping up. And when I turned back around, I hit foreheads, literally, straight head on with a man. And he was about the same height as I am, a little bigger, of course, and at the time. And we both kind of just, boom, hit the ground. And I remember thinking, oh my God, what has happened? And so, I feel my head and there's a tiny bit of blood, on my fingers when I looked. And I remember looking over at the guy and there was a lady bent down beside him, long, beautiful hair and, knee-high leather boots. And, they just looked like they were there for a good time. And still didn't think anything about it. And I'm sitting there and, the guy that I hit heads with automatically starts getting all concerned and upset about my head and is asking me if I'm okay, blah, blah. And the next thing I know, we're being escorted backstage. And, my friend that was with me at the time was saying, do you know who this is? Do you know who that is? Do you know? And I was like, no, I'm like almost concussed at this point and I have no idea who this guy is. At the time I could care less. I just knew that my head was hurting. So we go back to this little room. We're sitting there, and these EMTs come in. EMTs, with ice packs and bags and bandages and blah, blah. They're checking us out, shining lights in our eyes and, checking out how bad the incisions are on our heads from where we banged heads and making sure that we're not cut to where we would need stitches or anything of that nature. And all of a sudden, this man comes into the room, just wide open, and I look up and it's Kid Rock, and he's like, what is going on? What's happening? What have you done to this girl? He's being silly and funny and, just typical Kid Rock behavior. And, I was like, oh my God, Kid Rock. And all of a sudden, he looks down at the guy and he says, Dave, what have you done? What have you done now? What have you done? And by this time, I'm, the guy I'm with, he's beside me and he was like, Tammy, that's David Allen Coe. You just hit heads with David Allen Coe. And I was like, what? And, it just wasn't registering with me, because David Allen Coe, hello. He was not advertised to be there. He was not on the venue to be with Kid Rock. Kid Rock was supposed to be there by himself. And, yeah, so the next thing I know, we're getting treated and band-aids put on our heads and things of that nature, and ended up watching the entire show right outside on the stage, right behind the curtain, kind of. Kid Rock would come back and forth in between songs and change outfits and stuff. And that was a pretty wild experience, to say the least. And I still have a scar to this day. And whenever I hear David Allen Coe or Kid Rock, especially for that matter, I just automatically think of that night and how crazy and bizarre that was. And we ended up taking pictures, of course, and getting our ticket stubs signed and getting posters, t-shirts, different things of that nature, and just hanging out with them. And it was great. It was just bizarre, great fun. And yeah, I mean, that is the kind of things that I would find myself into sometimes. But just out of the blue, boom, and just walking around hitting someone head on, really not even recognizing who it was at the time. Grew up on David Allen Coe. My parents, my uncles, all my friends, everyone loved him. He's famous for a lot of reasons. If you don't know who David Allen Coe is, Google him. Listen to some of his songs. He's really something. I've always been a David Allen Coe fan. But in that moment, I did not recognize him. And yeah, so that happened. And yeah, that, like I said, that was a time before cell phones and stuff like that, and no one was whipping out cell phones and videoing and taking pictures and anything like that. There were some people there with cameras, obviously, taking pictures, but for the most part, most people didn't even know that it happened, or what was going on. He really didn't even look like himself. He kind of was dressed in a way that he just looked like a normal everyday person walking through the crowd. And, he didn't look like himself when he's on stage and when he's performing. And, I don't even know if he remembers me. Probably doesn't, I don't know. But to me, that was just an experience that I will never forget. Ended up having a great night. Even got our money refunded back for our tickets. Got to hang backstage with all the band members for a little while, and it was just, it was so great, Like I said, that's been 35 years ago, every bit of it, and 30 plus years, and I just remember it like it was yesterday. We had such a good time. So that's just one of the many stories that I have. If it can happen, it can happen to me. So if you'd like to hear some more of my crazy stories growing up, I have really crazy stories growing up in the 80s because I was a teenager. Just let me know. Comment below. Let me know if this is something that you'd be interested in. I love talking about some of the things that I've been through with different people and even by myself. And again, I appreciate you if you clicked on this link. I hope you'll stay, hang around, subscribe, and watch. And I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day. Love you. Bye.